Better days ahead. I see it. I feel it. I believe it. And they are coming our way. Welcome back. This is the Josh Button Podcast, episode 32, the last episode for 2023. And today, that is exactly what I want to convey, the message I want to bring to you, the inspiration going into this new year. I hope you can hold near and dear to your heart, to your mind, to your soul. Just know it. Better days are coming. You know, as we approach the end of the year, we have to think about all of the things, not only this past year, but in the last few years that have come into fruition. And this whole truther movement, this entire society of actually woke individuals, not the woke liberal nonsense, the people that are aware of the puppet masters and the strings that have been well pulled for generations, and the warfare on humanity and the warfare on abundance and freedom and liberty. Well, it's official. The momentum is officially ours, and it's been ours. And even if you weren't aware of it and weren't paying attention to it, there's somebody in your life, I know, 3 degrees of separation, that has been screaming from the mountaintops, can't you see what's going on? Don't you understand? This is not the Great Reset. This is the Great Awakening. And I've really had you doomers in my crosshairs lately, because some of the conversations that we have, whether it be online or in person, well, they're just not acceptable anymore. I can't take your doom, gloom, and parroting of, well, nonsense any longer. CNN is wrong. They've been wrong. They're going to continue to be wrong. And no matter how many times you say it, I'm not participating. I do not believe it. I will not accept your dark, impending doom reality any longer. Look, we've had it this way most of our lives. The things coming across that television are just reality and are portrayed as reality for a reason, because that's what they want you to believe. They want you to feel like there are no answers, like there is no escape from this matrix. And ladies and gentlemen, that's just not the case. Whether we're talking about the fiat banking system and usury and the Federal Reserve, or we're talking about the corrupt politicians that are trying to tighten a noose around our liberties and our freedoms, and perhaps even of patriotic Americans, the alternatives are presenting themselves. It is clear, it is abundantly clear, they have been presenting themselves for quite some time. You can look many places for the signs and for the symptoms that old guard is absolutely facing their destruction. Look at the conversations that are had openly about what the plans of this new world order, these globalists, the enslavers, if you will, was and is. And look at all the faults that we've found in their game plan and their strategy. And look at all the ways that we have become, well, instead of accustomed to losing, accustomed to sharing that awareness and we are becoming accustomed to openly having dialogue about what they wanted, about what would have happened had Hillary won, about the 16-year plan to destroy America, about this being the last beacon of hope of freedom in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we were surely facing turmoil and destruction of a magnitude that we cannot possibly imagine now. But as we go into 2024, it is easy to see that there will be more hiccups, there will be more warfare, there will be a spiritual battle ongoing. And no matter what messaging comes across that television and the programmers programming, refuse to give in, to participate, to believe. I refuse. And I want you to refuse too. Believe it. Understand that we have a much brighter future without the controllers of reality, without this inverted reality any longer reigning over all of us. Don't you see it? The systematic destruction of the old guard? Can't you feel it? The momentum is on our side. One guy online was telling me about the CBDCs and the incoming doom that this would be for all American citizens, just like it is in China. And I said, well, then why are we discussing it openly on Instagram, I believe it was? Why are we discussing it? Why isn't your bank card turned off right now? Why aren't you in a prison cell? You are aware of this? You're speaking up against it? You're talking about it? Why aren't you locked down? Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, we went through tyrannical overhauling of our freedoms during COVID. And a lot of people that were completely unaware this could ever possibly be the case for any of us or real had to come to that realization. No matter what their beliefs on this illness were, or this virus, or this plague upon humanity, what it really is, those that wish to enslave us and have enslaved us for the most part for a long time. Without that awareness, change would not be spawned. Change would not be possible. Don't you feel it? And now what's the alternative to dwelling in the messaging that they're trying to portray and trying to give us all the time? It's living life and living it as if you know and understand it's coming. It's already in action. The momentum is so strong that there is no other alternative. They will turn out the lights on us for sure. Everybody's been talking about these predictive programming and these messages that the grid is going down and the Obama's film and all of these different things where they wished and they do wish for destruction and chaos. However, I refuse to believe it. Why? Because I understand that this last grasp at power and control that they're openly, brazenly displaying is because of fear. I think they know that they are done for, that no matter what they try at this point, it's not us that's going to be wrapped further into slavery, and it's not us normal Joe Schmoes, a normal everyday guy who's going to be paying for their luxuries any longer. It's a matter of time. Yes, they are importing voters by the thousand across the southern border. But they're doing that because they know the extent to which they would have to cheat in this next election, if we make it to that election, would be so astronomical that they can almost not possibly achieve it. Look at what the extents they had to go to in the last election. Obviously, Joe Biden did not get that many votes. Obviously, these elections and counting did not need to stop in the middle of the night. This is obvious. This is opaque to anybody who's got half a brain and is paying attention. The momentum is ours. These people are grasping at straws. If you don't see that, I don't know that there's anything at this point that will make you aware of it. Tim Burkett, a senator or representative, this past week said, look, politicians are owned. They're blackmailed. They're blackmailed via alcohol and sex tapes and all of these other things. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's be honest. This is, in my opinion, just messaging to spawn even more and more people to be red-pilled or to be woke up, for however you want to put it. And for that matter, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This isn't the Epstein list that's being concealed and the people that are doing their best to keep that under lock and key, which is supposed to be exposed in the next couple of weeks, mind you. What's going to happen before then? Will the power go out? I was watching an interesting documentary the other night with McAfee, John McAfee or whatever his name was, talking about how the grids for our country and Western countries was, easily hackable and could easily be controlled just a few years ago by our, however you want to call them, our allies or our enemies. And then I'm brought back to the Q boards and to messaging that if the lights do go off, we are safeguarded and that we are in control. And, some of those things you would take with a grain of salt and take them as maybe misinformation to leave us at ease. However, if that were really the case, why would all of this information be exposed to the public? There's much better ways to go about controlling us and enslaving us than turning us on to the reality of things that were going on in the world. And, well, why would you wake up half of a country that's fully armed to the teeth in order to enslave them further or to take away our guns? Look at just that one example, gun control. And the NRA, and 10 years ago, what the conversation was on gun control compared to what it is now. After witnessing what we witnessed throughout COVID, the fervor at which gun rights advocates fight and private gun owners will never relinquish control of their ability to defend themselves. Now it's stronger than ever. It is absolutely stronger than ever. And what would bring that about? Well, the exposure of tyrannical evil. That's about it. Like, these false flags that were used to manipulate our emotional state and to get somewhat rational people to act irrationally over and over and over again as they pounded this into our heads that guns were a problem in this country has been all but erased by what we've witnessed firsthand, what we've seen. And when you are aware that your enemy is probably not across the ocean somewhere in a cave, but maybe perhaps in a robe in DC or in a legislative branch of some sort, or in a department that's been created and a 3-letter agency that's been created to do the opposite of what it was projected to be doing, well, then you're never going to give up your right to defend yourself. It's not your neighbors you have to worry about, generally speaking, anymore. And I think we're way more aware of that than we ever have been in our lifetimes. And yes, there are some annoying neighbors, and there are some Karens out there that will tattle on us for the most mundane little stupid things. But guess what? Those people are always going to exist. And it's also somewhat of a responsibility of ours to, safeguard them, because they cannot safeguard themselves. They are completely, they're useless in that regard. They are completely brainwashed and would be the first sheep into the slaughterhouse without a shepherd. So, ladies and gentlemen, I come to you the last time in 2023, and I want you to really sit down, take a rational look back at this year, the things that have been exposed, the things that have been exposed in the last few years, for that matter, which, if they weren't, would be devastating to the fate of mankind. It would be devastating. Somebody was going into the Donald Trump is responsible for this, and he's done that, and he's ruined, blah, blah, blah. Orange man bad, essentially. And I just really, really wanted to trigger just a little bit of thought in this guy. If he was what you're saying he was, then why would he have brought our attention to all of the absolute evil things that are going on our dime? Why would he point out how taxpayer funds are being utilized? Why would he point out how crooked the politicians that have been part of this establishment for so long are? Why? Why would he bring the electoral process into question? Why? You know it now, I know it. The elections are not safe and secure. You know it, I know it now. There is no safe and effective, you know what? You know it, and I know it now, that our funds that go across the world to fight foreign wars are being utilized for either straight up evil or are being laundered back to greedy criminals that just so happen to be in DC. You know it, and I know it. We all know it. We all know that the mainstream media is lying. They know they're lying. We know they're lying, and they're still lying. Interesting thing about this YouTube and other platforms that have really gained a lot of traction lately in the last few years. I talked about this on a couple episodes ago, the NFL Sunday Ticket being contracted with YouTube. And that just being one example of a major, if the most major sport in the world, as far as viewership and contracts, and especially here in the United States, the NFL just garners attention that cannot be ignored. It is just absolutely, it's the mainstream way to advertise to sports fans through the NFL. And that moved off of television and CBS and these networks for the most part to online streaming. And I think we've seen the same exact thing in the last few years, is that people aren't watching the Tom Brokaws and the mainstream legacy media on TV nearly as much now as they were when we were growing up, of course. And it is another force of momentum that is going to move onto the alternate platforms for good. They know it. They see their tombstones. Disney, one of the most successful executives in our lifetime, Bob Iger, he's ruined his company. They've lost billions of dollars. And was it because he's terrible at his job? I don't think so. I think it's because they forgot who their customer was. And before they could acknowledge that they were losing a battle for our attention, they tried all of these things that they thought were good for an agenda that they had at play for the last 100 years, 20, 30 especially. They forgot who the customer was. It's the parents of these kids. And I saw that brought up on a podcast the other day, and it rings true. The old establishment, the old guard, is destroying itself. It's eating, they're cannibalizing themselves. And I am here for it. We should all be here for it. These things were used against us. They were not for our entertainment. They were for, brainwashing us and attracting our attention and taking our attention away from the things in life that are really actually important, the things that we can control, the way we should be living, and the abundance that really is available to all of us if we just tune them out, if we turn them off, if we develop bonds in our communities and our friends and our family and our associates, and we operate far more locally than what we have been. Comparison is the thief of joy. So social media, yes, we have that challenge still. We do still have a great number of people that are just comparing themselves to other people online and this false reality that people are presenting there. However, alternate experts, actual experts, are now presenting themselves across the board, whether it be health, whether it be health and wellness, whether it be all kinds of subjects. Look, you can go onto YouTube and teach yourself a plethora of things now that you're not going to learn in a public school system. They say public school system really did the biggest disservice to us when they stopped home ec and shop class, and they took trades out of schooling. And they did that for a reason. The universities most likely had a heavy hand in that. And they would get people to commit to going to college and four-year universities at great expense, putting themselves into huge debt. And what happened? What was the amount of people that actually graduated from college and could use the degree that they had received for a bright, sustainable, abundant future? Well, that number started to dwindle a long time ago. And the universities became the businesses and the centers for profit at the expense of those going to it. I can't say that we shouldn't do all of the things that we want to do in life, because I, for one, am one of those individuals that have had somewhat of a Forrest Gump existence. I've done many different things, and of all of the things that I've enjoyed doing, I wouldn't say that the most enjoyable things were the most financially rewarding. And in fact, they weren't and aren't, but they are rewarding in other ways. So escaping the matrix isn't just escaping the messaging from the mainstream and the traditional, I guess, modern route that they would have us take. Go to school, go to university, come out, work a job, 40 hours a week, sustain somebody else's life and bring profits to other people's lives for a set amount of time until you can retire and somewhat, live comfortably during the 10 years to 20 years of retirement that you have, but not really enjoy life. This model, just as much as the propaganda that they've been feeding us, is dying. 10 years ago, I decided to, change my life for the better in ways that I hadn't previously thought about. Educating myself online, like I just mentioned, on YouTube and different books and going down different avenues to acquire skill sets that I could use for the rest of my life, not that I could use for the next 10 years, 20 years, and then retire. Retirement for me, I wanted to be from that day forward. I wanted to, I get reward from working and from achieving things, but I wanted to acquire skills so that I could be utilizing these things for myself, my family, the people that are close to me, my dog, and get the rewards of fulfilling needs throughout all of our existences. This is life. This is life. I came back to Florida a couple years ago, and before I did, I profoundly remember the thinking, like some of the skills that I had acquired and I was utilizing where I was at in California, that they would be much better. Well, they would be more well received, and that the people would really, really be more grateful if they were people that were really close to my soul and my family and my friends. And I did. And I came back and I put some of those skills to work and to use. And I realized, over and over and over again, how many different situations where I was just a blessing to my family and that they were very grateful for, not only my willingness, but the skills that I had developed and could use for them on their behalf and on my behalf for that matter, because it rewards me. That is far better than working for the 9 to 5, 40-hour grind for somebody who's really not attached to your livelihood, who doesn't really care how, rewarded you are in life and doesn't feel the need to, show you gratitude or render you satisfied with the existence that you have. No, they'll drain you of your energy. They are energy vampires. So look back on the year and I'm thinking, we have so much to be grateful for, but with all of these things, these crazy revelations that have come to pass in society and in culture, we have to understand that this is only leading us to a better existence, to a much brighter place. And the doomers, the gloomers, the people that are stuck into that TV and constantly want to drain you by sharing the propaganda and the messaging that they have parroted, well, it's time we tune them out. It's time we tune them out. I've had so many debates online, so many conversations where I felt like I was talking somebody off of a ledge, but at the end of the conversation, they're in the same exact place they were when we started it. And they will deny any information presented to them to cling into that reality and their existence, which they're so comfortable in. And it doesn't make sense because it's the most uncomfortable existence you can imagine. Doom and gloom and where we're headed. This world is only going to get worse, and it's only going to be war and destruction and chaos. And how can we possibly change these people's minds? Presenting rational facts and presenting exposure to these people hasn't done much good. It doesn't really seem to be effective. So what is my plan? I'm still going to be, sharing the things that I deem pertinent and relevant to life. But for myself, I'm not going to allow my judgment to be clouded by doomers. I can't. I see better days ahead. I see improved conditions. Not only because I'm improving the conditions myself, I'm training myself in jujitsu, I'm training myself physically, I'm eating the right things, I'm monitoring what goes into my body, I'm doing breath work. All of these activities that all of us, you know, some of us choose to do, some of us don't, but all of these things that we can do, that we can control, getting our sleep right, all of these things that we can control are very important. But also, it's important to understand that everything that has happened for a reason. And if you pay attention to it, the exposure can't possibly lead to a worse existence than what we were in when we weren't aware. And that, is pertinent to not only survival, forget survival, but to thriving. I want a community that is aware we are going to a much better place, to an abundant world and an abundant life. And I want to really nurture that community, build this community with that in mind. How can I help you? How can I facilitate your growth? That's what I'm putting on this channel. That's what I think we should focus on sharing with each other as much as possible. And of course, it's nice to bring people into the fold that have been swayed, but some of these doomers are just going to be left there for good. And as the world progresses, if you are committed to seeing the world that way, you will see the signs. You will see different opportunities, things that come about that, well, you were judgmental of before. Now you will see the opportunity and the silver lining, the possibility. Somebody was talking about the national debt, the trillions of dollars of debt, and I was really trying to wrap my head around how people still see it this way. If you are aware that they print these dollars out of nowhere, out of thin air, that they're inflating currency, and that all of this is based upon absolutely nothing more than confidence and consumer confidence, and that they will continually write off their debt, discharge their debt, bail themselves out, well, why do you think that the debt upon all the rest of us is real or valid? The debt is just as much of an illusion as, well, the value of these things. And they, like to talk about the Great Reset and how all this debt is going to be, pushed onto the backs of all the small men and all the world, and we are just going to live in indefinite servitude and slavery. However, bankrupting their system is not, it's not thought of in the right way, in my opinion. I think bankrupting this fiat backed by nothing system, except for those that are printing the dollars and those that are controlling the currency and those that are controlling the minds of men, well, I think that can go away and it can be replaced with something better, not CBDCs and something worse, not ultimate slavery. I think this can be replaced by, taking back what's ours and thinking about it that way. If we were fleeced for generations for no reason other than to line the pockets of the few, well, what are they holding? And why can't we just take it back? These small groups of shareholders that control so much of the world's wealth, well, they've proven what they would do with us if given the opportunity and the choice, so why don't we flip the tables on them? Why don't we return sound currency to all nations in the world? I see that future. I see that existence. I see the abundance being returned to the sovereign man and the individuals in this world. And 2024 will most definitely not come through without road bumps, and it will not be without some chaos and without more war and without more exposure of evil. But I refuse to buy into that's the way the world is going for good. And I refuse to hear the doom and gloom anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into an abundant, beautiful, amazing existence. And the more we become aware of that, the more we choose to believe that and see that and to do away with the bonds from the past, the better we will all be, the better our lives will be. What we envision and what we believe is so pertinent to reality. 2024, I am excited for all of the possibilities, for the plethora of abundance that awaits us. No matter how bumpy the road gets until we get there. Yeah, that's me looking back at 2023. I'm so grateful for the things that I have accomplished, that we have accomplished, and the momentum that's on our side. Heading into 2024, it's a fabulous, amazing, great time to be alive. This is the Josh Button Podcast, and I'm excited as well to expand on this project and the things that I want to accomplish for you, with you, going into 2024. Lots of that to cover early next year. But until then, enjoy your new year. Have an epic holiday. Look back, digest some of these things. Please do your best to share the joyful noise, the joyful news. And turn off the doomers. We've had enough of that. Anyways, Happy New Year. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's going to help me grow this channel going into 2024. And wherever you listen to this podcast, I'm thankful for you. I'm grateful for you. It's been an awesome year starting this whole project out, and I appreciate it. Thank you all very much, and I will see you and speak to you in 2024.